You know him, of course. We all do. He's the first real spark of magic in a story that begins with comfortable holes in the ground and entirely too much food. He arrives with a cart full of fireworks and a whiff of pipeweed, his eyebrows escaping from under the brim of a pointed blue hat. He is Gandalf the Grey, a figure of myth and mischief, a disturber of the peace, a kindly old man who just so happens to be one of the most powerful beings to walk the earth. We follow his journey from this humble, wandering conjurer to the returned, resurrected figure of authority, Gandalf the White. It's one of the most iconic transformations in all of fiction. Grey to white, good to better, a promotion earned in fire and death, from a weary traveller to a shining lord. That's the story we've been told. It's clean, it's powerful, and it makes perfect narrative sense. But here's the thing nobody talks about. It's not the whole story. It's not even the original story. Tolkien's first idea for Gandalf, the colour he was originally assigned in the grand cosmic scheme of things, was something else entirely. And this single changed detail, buried deep in the author's drafts and notes, doesn't just add a bit of trivia to his character. It fundamentally realigns our understanding of his purpose, his failures, and the true meaning of his eventual transformation. What we're about to uncover changes everything we thought we knew about the colour of a wizard's soul. So let me ask you this. If he wasn't meant to be grey, and white was a role he only took on after a cataclysm, then what colour was Gandalf really supposed to be? The answer to that question reveals not just a secret history of Middle-earth, but a profound truth about the paths we're given, the paths we choose, and the people we are forced to become. To understand what was changed, we first have to solidify what we think we know. The official version, laid out in essays published long after The Lord of the Rings, is that of the Istari. 5 of them were sent from the Undying Lands, angelic spirits clothed in the flesh of old men, their mission to guide and inspire the free peoples against the rising shadow of Sauron, but never to dominate them with their own power. Their colours were a sign of their order and their station. At the head was Saruman the White, the chief, the most powerful, his colour representing the blending of all colours into a pure, untainted whole. Then came our friend, Gandalf the Grey, a lesser station, his colour suggesting something more muted, indistinct, the colour of twilight and smoke. And finally, Radagast the Brown, his focus turned to the beasts and birds, the colour of soil and bark and the wild things of the world. The other 2, the Blue Wizards, are a mystery, having gone into the Far East and mostly vanished from the histories of the West. This hierarchy seems clear. White is the pinnacle. Grey is a step below. Brown is something else entirely. Gandalf's colour, in this context, signifies humility. He is not the chief. He is the wanderer, the observer, the one who meddles and advises but does not command. His grey robes are a kind of camouflage, allowing him to move through the world of men and hobbits without the intimidating aura of a celestial prince. He is the colour of a cloudy day, of a stone on the path. He is deliberately, purposefully overlooked. And this fits the character we meet in The Hobbit perfectly. He's powerful, yes, but his power is subtle. It's in his words, his nudges, his ability to be in the right place at the right time. He doesn't command armies, he convinces a hobbit to leave his home. This is the Gandalf we accept. His greyness is a virtue, a sign of his wisdom to not seek dominion. But deep within the 12 volumes of the history of Middle-earth, curated and commented on by his son Christopher, a different picture begins to emerge. Christopher Tolkien wasn't just an editor. He was a literary archaeologist, and his life's work was to excavate the lost city of his father's imagination. In the volume titled The Treason of Isengard, which charts the earliest drafts of the Fellowship of the Ring, we find the first cracks in this established order. As Tolkien was first feeling his way through the story, trying to understand who these wizards were, he scribbled notes about their organization. And in one of these foundational, primordial moments of creation, the hierarchy is different. The roles are cast in another light. He writes down the names and the colors: Saruman, the chief; Radagast, his companion; and Gandalf. And the colors assigned are not what we expect. In this initial conception, Saruman is, as ever, the head of the order. His color is white. Radagast is given the color brown. But Gandalf is not grey. In the first draft of the Divine Plan, Tolkien names him Gandalf the Blue. Let that sink in for a moment. Not a muted, humble, shadowy grey, but blue, the color of the sky, of the deep ocean, of hope and of memory. It's a shocking, vibrant, and incredibly significant choice. And it's a choice that Tolkien would later undo, transplanting the color onto two other, far more mysterious wizards, and cloaking Gandalf in his familiar grey. But why? Why was Gandalf originally blue? And what does that forgotten designation tell us about the wizard he was truly meant to be? The answer begins not with Gandalf, but with the wizard who would become his greatest enemy. To see the shift clearly, we have to look at Saruman. In the published books, Saruman's fall from grace is symbolized by a subtle but profound change in his appearance. When Gandalf confronts him at Isengard, he notices that Saruman's robe is no longer purely white. He describes it: "And I saw that his robes, which had seemed white, were not so, but were woven of all colors, and if he moved, they shimmered and changed hue, so that the eye was bewildered." He declares himself Saruman of many colors. This is a brilliant piece of symbolism. White light, when passed through a prism, breaks into the spectrum of colors. Saruman, in his pride and his lust for knowledge of all things, has fractured his own soul. He is no longer a focused, singular point of white light. He is a chaotic, fragmented rainbow. His power is broken, scattered. He has forsaken purity for complexity, and in doing so, lost his wisdom. But this idea of Saruman of many colors was not the original plan. It was an invention, a change made during the drafting process. Originally, Saruman's fall was simpler. He was Saruman the White, and he was a traitor. The many colors idea was a later stroke of genius that Tolkien added to give the betrayal a deeper philosophical and visual weight. This change, however, created a vacancy. If the fallen leader of the wizards was now defined by this fractured, multicolored chaos, then the color white, the color of purity, of leadership, of singular purpose, was now an empty throne. It was a role that needed to be filled. And this is where Gandalf's original color becomes so critically important. The change in Saruman's destiny necessitated a change in Gandalf's. One could not happen without the other. They are two sides of the same coin, their fates and their symbolic colors intrinsically linked by their author's evolving vision. The stage was being set for a correction, not just in the world of Middle-earth, but on the very pages of Tolkien's drafts. And so we return to Gandalf the Blue. What would that have meant? In Tolkien's deeply layered symbolic world, color is never just decoration. Blue is one of the most powerful and significant colors in his legendarium. It is the color associated with Manwë, the king of the Vala, the highest of the angelic powers who serves as the vicegerent of the Creator on earth. His heralds wear blue. The eagles, his messengers, fly in the vast blue of the sky. Blue is the color of divine authority, of the heavens, of the very air that Middle-earth breathes. It is also deeply connected to Varda, the queen of the stars, the Vala, whom the elves revere above all others. It was she who set the stars in the sky and it is to her they sing their hymns. In Unfinished Tales, it's explicitly stated that Gandalf, in his pre-incarnate spirit form as Olórin, was closest to the people of Varda. He loved the elves and walked among them unseen, and it was she who, in a way, nominated him for the perilous journey to Middle-earth. So, Gandalf the Blue would have been Varda's wizard. He would have been the sky wizard, the star wizard. His colour would have been a direct banner of his allegiance, a sign that his authority came from the highest and most revered powers in the cosmos. He wouldn't have been a humble, grey wanderer. He would have been an emissary of the stars, a walking piece of the holy sky. Imagine him arriving at Bag End, not just as a mysterious old man, but as a figure whose very robes declared his celestial origin. The entire tone of his character shifts. He is less a meddler and more a divine agent, his purpose less about subtle guidance and more about representing a heavenly mandate. This is a Gandalf who is far less approachable, far more obviously otherworldly. He is a bolt of blue, not a wisp of grey smoke. So why did Tolkien make the change? Why demote him, symbolically, from the vibrant, authoritative blue to the ambiguous, humble grey? This is where we move from textual evidence into speculative analysis. But the reasoning seems to flow directly from the demands of the story. A wizard cloaked in the colour of the King of the Vala is not a character who can easily be underestimated. He carries his authority on his sleeve, or rather, on his entire person. But the central narrative of The Lord of the Rings requires Gandalf to be underestimated. He needs to be dismissed by the powerful, like Denethor. He needs to be seen as a nuisance by the comfortable, like the hobbits. His power must remain largely hidden, a surprise to his enemies, and, sometimes, even to his friends. The colour grey is the perfect symbolic choice for this role. Grey is the colour of ash and dust, of dusk and dawn. It is the colour of things hidden, of potential that is not yet revealed. It is the colour of a banked fire, which seems like nothing but contains an immense heat that can be called upon in a moment of need. By changing Gandalf from blue to grey, Tolkien wasn't just changing his clothes, he was changing his narrative strategy. He was cloaking his divine messenger in humility. He was making him a secret. The greyness becomes a voluntary disguise, a self-imposed limitation that allows him to work from within the world, rather than acting upon it from above. He becomes the catalyst, the spark, not the roaring flame. It's a far more subtle and, ultimately, more dramatically satisfying choice. The blue wizard was a concept, the grey pilgrim was a character. He sacrificed the overt symbolism of divine right for the quiet power of the underdog, and in doing so, he created the Gandalf we love. The journey from the author's note to the final page was a journey from a statement of power to a story about it. This, then, reframes his transformation completely. The return of Gandalf the White is not a simple promotion from level 1 to level 2. It is a fundamental shift in purpose, made necessary by the failure of the original leader. When Gandalf falls in Moria, battling the Balrog, he is destroyed. But he is sent back. He says, "I have been sent back until my task is done." And when he returns, he is no longer Gandalf the Grey. He is Gandalf the White. He has, quite literally, taken Saruman's place. He has assumed the mantle of leadership that Saruman abdicated through his betrayal. Remember that empty throne we talked about? The vacancy created when Saruman became Saruman of many colours? Gandalf now fills it. He is no longer the hidden spark, the grey catalyst. His period of quiet observation is over. The disguise is gone. He is now the roaring flame. He is what Saruman should have been, the focused, pure white light set in direct opposition to the darkness. He now has the authority to command, to direct the war, to break the staff of his rival. This isn't just a power-up, it's a correction of a cosmic error. The original plan for the Order of Wizards had failed. The leader had fallen. So, a new leader had to be forged. The Grey Pilgrim died in the abyss, and the White Rider was born to take his place. His journey is not a straight line up. It's a complex, circular path. The potential for leadership, hinted at in that original designation as Gandalf the Blue, is finally realized, not as a birthright, but as a burden earned through sacrifice. He doesn't just get a new robe and a new title. He gets a new job description. The time for subtlety is over. The time for open war has begun. His color is a direct reflection of that new, terrible responsibility. He is no longer the question mark, he is the answer. And here is where the story stops being about a wizard's wardrobe and starts being about us. The core insight is this: Gandalf's color was never a rank. It was a mission statement. Each color represented a different mode of being, a different way of engaging with the world, dictated by the needs of the time. Blue was the original plan, the divine emissary, the Sky Warden. It was a purpose that was, for narrative reasons, set aside. Grey was the adapted mission, the path of humility, of the wanderer who works in shadow and whispers in ears, the secret keeper of the flame. And white was the final, crisis-driven mission, the role of the commander, the pure, focused will that must stand when all other leadership has failed. Gandalf's true identity wasn't a color, it was the purpose he was serving. And now, the pivot. Isn't this the shape of our own lives? We all have our blue phase. The period of our youth, perhaps, filled with grand ideals and a sense of a high, noble purpose. The person we believe we are meant to be, our connection to something vast and hopeful, like the sky. We are the hero of our own story, our destiny writ in the stars. But life rarely allows us to remain so pure, so certain. We are forced into our grey phase, the long years of compromise, of quiet work, of being underestimated, the period where our grand ideals are banked like coals, hidden beneath the ash of daily responsibilities. We wear the grey robes of the commuter, the parent, the employee, the person just trying to get by. Our true potential is veiled, hidden even from ourselves. We become catalysts in other people's stories rather than the hero of our own. Most of life is lived in the grey, but then, for some, a moment of crisis arrives. A challenge so profound it demands we shed our grey disguise. A moment where we are called upon to become what we were always meant to be. This is our white moment. It could be a personal loss, a professional crisis, a moral stand we must take. It's the moment the banked fire roars back to life. We are forced to cast off the ambiguity and act with a singular, focused clarity. We become the leader our family needs, the advocate our community requires, the person who finally says no to injustice. We become what the moment demands. We take the empty throne that life has presented us. This transformation isn't a reward. It is, like Gandalf's, a terrible burden. It is earned through loss, through a kind of death of our old self. We don't become Gandalf the White because we are promoted. We become him because we have no other choice. The previous leader has failed, the old system is broken, and we are the one who has been sent back to see the task through. And we must remember the other side of this story. The two blue wizards, LOTR and Pallando. In Tolkien's final conception, they were the ones who carried that color. They went into the vast, unknown east of Middle-earth on a mission to stir up rebellion against Sauron from behind his own lines. And they never returned. Their story is one of mystery and, likely, of failure. They represent the path not taken by Gandalf, the original purpose that faded into obscurity. They are a haunting reminder that not every mission succeeds. Not every blue ideal survives its encounter with the world. Some purposes, some people, simply vanish into the grey twilight of history, their stories untold, their sacrifices unremembered. They are the quiet melancholy that underlines the triumph of Gandalf's own journey. So, what colour was Gandalf? He was all of them. He was the ghost of Gandalf the Blue, a hint of a celestial purpose he never overtly claimed. He was the reality of Gandalf the Grey, the humble pilgrim whose strength was in being ignored. And he was the necessity of Gandalf the White, the resurrected commander who had to sacrifice his freedom as a wanderer for the burden of leadership. His true colour was the colour of his duty. It was fluid, it was responsive, it was defined not by his nature, but by the world's need. Tolkien, in his endless revisions, wasn't just looking for the right word or the right plot point. He was searching for the right symbol. He found that the story of a static, sky-blue emissary was less powerful than the story of a man who had to change his very essence to meet the demands of his quest. The story isn't about becoming more powerful, it's about becoming more necessary. It's a profound lesson about identity. We are not one thing, we are not one colour. We are a series of roles, of masks, of duties we assume. And our true character is revealed not by the station we are born to, but by the one we earn when the world is burning down. We return, then, to that first image. The old man on the cart with his pointy blue hat, a final faint echo of the wizard he was once imagined to be, and his simple grey cloak. He is on his way to a party, to bring joy and wonder to small, unimportant people. And in that image, we now see the whole story. We see the humility that was a choice, the power that was a secret, and the long, hard road that would eventually lead him through fire and death to a terrible, lonely, and glorious clarity. The most important work, he teaches us, is often done in the grey. It begins not with a lightning strike, but with a quiet knock on a round, green door. What colour are you today? And what colour will you be when you are needed most?